time for the Michael Huddleston Show on HUDRadio.com.
I appreciate your input.
It's the beginning of a revolution here in Texas. Let's hear it. Or let's not hear it. 832-699-0110 is the number you need to call in to give us your thoughts, your comments on the show and what you're hearing on the show. You can also leave us a message on the Facebook site at www.facebook.com/mhudradio. Like I said, it's a revolution here in Texas, everybody. And you may be asking yourself, Michael, why do you say that? David Dewhurst got the majority of the votes in Texas for the state Senate. Well, I'll tell you exactly why that is. If you remember the last show we talked about voters in Texas and how somehow about 15, 20 years ago, voters got this thing stuck in their mind where they would not vote for anybody on the ballot because they didn't like who was on the ballot. Well, the same principle applies here, except it's just a little bit different. So there's a runoff going to come up in a couple weeks here between David Dewhurst and Ted Cruz for the U.S. Senate seat that was occupied by Kay Bailey Hutchison, and it will just be between those two guys. Ted Cruz will win that runoff election. I guarantee it. Mark my words. It is 8:10 p.m. on June 2nd, 2012. Ted Cruz will win the runoff election and will be the next U.S. state senator for the great state of Texas. And here's why. Because the people that vote for people like David Dewhurst, only show up on primary day and do not show back up for the runoff election. The people who vote for candidate B, Ted Cruz, are the revolutionists or the Tea Partyists or whatever you want to call them. They're going to show up for that next vote because they want their man in more than people who vote for David Dewhurst want their man in. You see, David Dewhurst is just the average day, everyday politician, Republican, establishment guy that you just vote for because you weren't really paying attention the whole year, and now that's a primary election and you got to vote for somebody, but since you weren't paying attention the whole year, you don't know who this Ted Cruz guy is. You know who Craig James is because you saw him on ESPN, and somebody once told me, you think you hate Craig James, and everybody in Lubbock thinks they hate Craig James. But the thing is, they're fortunate to hate Craig James because if you knew Craig James, you'd hate him even worse. But enough of Craig James bashing. There's the other guy, Tom Leppert, who you might not know about. So you got these 4 big candidates here. There were 7 candidates total. The other 3, I don't even know the name of. That's just how irrelevant they were. And so you vote for David Dewhurst because he's the only man that you heard of. But you're not going to show back up for the runoff election because you really didn't care that much in the first place. That's why you voted for David Dewhurst. So back to what I was saying, it's a revolution in Texas. We have a Tea Party guy who's taken the U.S. Senate seat from Kay Bailey Hutchison. One establishment Republican going out, one Tea Partyist going in. And for those of you who are wondering, I'm not necessarily a Tea Party guy, but I stand behind a lot what not Craig James. Look at me, already getting fired up about Craig James. Now I can't even get the right guy's name out of my mouth. I just stand behind Ted Cruz and what Ted Cruz believes. We run along the same lines here. Things have to change. You can't just have an establishment Republican always occupying the same seat. So anyways, revolution in Texas. Big revolution. So what does Ted Cruz need to do after he wins, assuming that he wins the runoff election? Well, there's a couple things he needs to do. And this is from asking people in the streets, random people around my office, people around at HEB, and people around all over the place, asking them, what would you want the Texas Congress to do, or the Texas legislature to do, I'm sorry. And a lot of those things were get back in tune with the people. The state of Texas employs a lot of people around here, and yet they are the most underpaid people in this state. Hands down, if you knew how much they made, trust me, I worked for the state at one point. The most underpaid company in America is working for the state of Texas. That's one thing the legislature needs to look into. Getting those people some more money. Getting those people paid for what they should be. There are people in the MHMR community who work as programming people. They're not just MHMR people. They're called Quality Developmental Disability Professionals. Something that they're called QDDPs. They used to be called QMRPs. Well, QMRPs, QDDPs were the most underpaid position in the state of Texas. They could go to the private sector and easily get paid 10 times what they do, but they work for the state because they believe in what they're doing. So that was the first complaint and the biggest complaint that I heard from people that I talked to. The second thing is, do not fall into the mold of what these establishment Republicans in the legislature want. They may come out and tell you they don't want a state income tax, but do not let that fool you. Because given the opportunity, they would do it. They would do it. I mean, heck, we're already taxed for everything else that we do in this state. There are people that come here all the time that say, oh, Michael, we moved here from California, or we moved here from Minnesota, or we moved here from Florida, or whatever, and it's great that you don't have a state income tax. That's one of the best reasons we moved here. Now, in Texas, we don't have an income tax, but we make up for that income tax in other ways, such as taxing people, like for getting married. $74. Do you know it's $74 to get married, to get a marriage license in this state? $74 to get a marriage license in this state. For you to go to a courthouse, for the girl who is behind the desk, who, number one, probably doesn't have a college education, two, doesn't know what she's doing, is just kind of reading off the screen and telling her what to do. For $74 for her to write down your name, write down the day of the wedding, and write down this contract does not expire, or expires 30 days after the day it is written. $74. I just paid her $74 to do that. And that goes into the whole issue again of, why does the government need to know if I'm married or not? I already filed all my taxes. Anyways, wasteful spending in this state. Wasteful spending. Did you know that in Harris County, there are tons of tollways? And Harris County is where the city of Houston and Katy and Richmond and the Woodlands and all that jazz is in that county, Harris County. There are two tollways in particular that I'm about to talk about. It's called the Hardy Tollway, that parallels 45 and 59, the East Tex Freeway. And then there's also the Sam Houston Tollway, or Loop 1, and it goes around the city of Houston. There's two loops, one in the inner loop, one in the outer loop. We're talking about the outer loop, and it's a tollway. Those tollways were built in the late 80s. And in fact, I think, if I'm right, Janis Joplin had a concert on the Sam Houston Tollway when it was first opened. And I may have to get my fact checker into that, but I think it was Janis Joplin. It's either Janis Joplin or it was who's that? I can't remember who sings that song, or what. I can't know the tune to it, but I don't even know the artist to it. But I think it was Janis Joplin, so we're just going to say Janis Joplin. That's how long ago the Sam Houston Tollway started collecting tolls. And there was an article on KHOU.com. That's the channel, the CBS station down here in Houston, the Channel 11. And they did an investigative report on how many tolls have been collected from the Sam Houston Tollway. They've collected almost 11 times the amount it cost to build the Sam Houston Tollway. 11 times. Where is all that money going? The same with the lottery money that was supposed to be going to the education program in Texas. It's just incredibly wasteful spending. So those are two things that Ted Cruz needs to do when he assumes his position, when he wins the runoff election, which he will, because I told you he will, because I'm predicting he will. Just watch. Those are two things. Look back at the state employees that are here working hard for the state and getting underpaid, but doing it for the right reasons. And two, the wasteful spending in this state, a.k.a. the Lottery Commission, TxDOT, all those kind of things. Take that money that you're getting from the Hardy Tollway and put it towards border security, in my opinion. But anyways, tell us what you know and what you want us to hear, and tell us your comments. 832-699-0110 is the number, or leave us a message on Facebook at www.facebook.com/mhudradio. All right, check it out. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to take a hiatus for a couple of weeks because I have to go do this thing called get married, and I will be on my honeymoon until June 19th. So when I come back, I'll hopefully have a lot of stuff to tell you about, a lot of observations that I heard in the news, a lot of things we could talk about. But for now, this is your radio fix for the day. Again, please, please, please call the number 832-699-0110. Leave us your thoughts, your comments on anything you want to hear or anything that you have heard. Try not to slang it up. or anything that you have heard from this week or the next couple of weeks, and we are going to talk about it. We have to talk about it. It's all this content is generated by people like you. So that's all the time we have for today. Join us again. Again, Facebook.com/mhudradio, 832-699-0110 are the contact numbers. Give us a ring, give us a shout, let us know. See y'all in about 2.5 weeks.
Join us next time for more of the Michael Huddleston Show. Be sure and check out the Facebook page at www.facebook.com/mhudradio.